Hey guys, what is up? It is Serio Tenon here with this Million Live deck profile I've been asked to do by multiple people. Most people, when they see it, they think it's a really cool deck, and they just kind of want the word out there, because I feel like Million Live is a set that too many people have some mistakes about. Mistaken ideas. I've tried a lot of Million Live lists before I decided this was the best one. It's a modification of a Japanese topping list that I saw. So let's get right into it. First, at level 0, we play for this Yukihiro Runner. Runs to back row for 1 stock, and it power pumps something 2k on attack. It's a fantastic 0 to open with. Fantastic card in general. Now then, I'm sorry these are sorted, but things have happened. Also at level 0, we play for this Rio. It's a great card. On attack, if you have 1 or less other cards on your board, you can mill the top. If you mill level 0, it gets summoned to the back row. So sometimes a plus. Also on reverse, you mill 2. If you hit a level 2 or higher, this card goes to stock. So it's mill. It's potentially a +2 because it generates both a stock and a card. Very powerful profile, very good card for the mid game if you're forced to crash because it generates stock. Very, very powerful card. Also, it's just great. I think it's one of the best cards in Million Live actually. After playing with it a lot, the stock that it generates cannot be undervalued. We have 4 of this Brainstorm, Salvage Brainstorm. Why do we do Salvage Brainstorm? 1, it's red. That's actually relevant for an event that we play, but also. Salvage, right? Like, this deck generates somewhere between 10 and 15 stock on average, probably, because of like all the stock gen that you have and like just the way that the game plays out. 10 is actually low. It's probably closer to 15 stock by level 3 if you're having an anywhere normal game. That means that you're going to be dumping your stock at level 3 for your really strong combos, and then this can like find pieces out of that stock. But also, when making plays, I've always preferred Salvage Brainstorms because you know the cards in your stock, right? You know what's over here. You know the cards in your grave. You don't know what's in the top 4 cards of your deck. When you brainstorm with a Search Brainstorm, you run the risk of removing the cards that you want, and sometimes things in this game are more about like how to keep your mental state healthy than about super efficiency. I've always felt that Search Brainstorms are weaker, and I can't be convinced otherwise. Sorry. Boom. 3 clean cuts. Why do we play 3 clean cuts only? When it's a 3K, it's also like only oversized. Well, these are pluses. This is kind of a plus. This is more of a plus. And clean cuts in like a terrible spot sometimes. Because there are matchups, you just clean cut can never go off. Right? Your opponent's either playing cards too big for it, they're playing chasers, they're playing runners, they're playing JCs, they're playing stuff that denies this from going off. And those are very annoying. So you don't want to crutch too hard on it. It's very, very unfortunate. And then we've got boom. These are utility cards. These are like playing 1 extra copy of everything in our deck for each one. This is a drop search. This is a drop climax salvage. Not really much to say. They're just utility. They're great cards to have. They're kind of running counts that you're probably not going to see them in, but that is kind of relevant. I think I should mention that. But if you see one, I see it as like extra ways to top deck the cards I want, because like you can only run 4 copies of cards. And there's some cards in this deck that you'd like to play more, and this is like playing extra, right? So that's our level 0. 17 level 0s, I believe. Now then, on to level 1. We play 4 of this Rio. This has, if you use an act, stock charge on reverse. It's blind stock. It also has the card in front of it gets paid to Encore. You don't care about that. All you care about this is stock generation. Because you play a really greedy deck where you only play this as your other level 1, the Shimakai. You play it because it like helps you at 1 have like an extra attacker that might be able to do something against board. It can help this along with Yukio, and it can help you at level 3 get a reverse. But your level 1s don't really matter. Like your level 1s are actually just trying to feed into your level 2, which is the most important part of the deck. So only 5 level 1s. You don't care about them too much, other than this one. This one's useful in the late game. This one's garbage. Pretty much everything after level 1. No. But your main playmaker is Makoto, who is... So 2/1/7/5. For every other copy of itself in the front row, it gets 2k. So at 2, you have 9/5 power. At 3, you have 11/5. On reverse, with the stock soul, you stock a music character from your grave, and you search your deck for a music character. So it replaces the stock it took to play it, and then searches your deck for a card that you want. So this is like an on reverse search. It is delayed, but then the reason that this is so powerful is your opponent is not going to be able to answer this, because you're sometimes your goal, the reason that we don't care about 1, and I was like, whatever, we don't care about this card as much. It's just there to like help you get stock and to like help you high roll a little bit harder. You could almost play no zeros in this deck, or no level 1. Sorry, no level 1s in this deck, because you don't care about level 1. You actually just don't care. You actually want to fall behind. You want to like. You have really aggressive zeros. You have cards that run to back row. You have clean cuts. Your opponent should hit level 1 first. Then you should get hit to 1. And then you field like one of these, maybe 2, it's whatever you have in your hand. And you get like, you field like a clean cut, and you don't slam a climax. You get like 2 to 3 damage. And then your opponent's at like 1/5 to 1/6. Preferably 1/5, so they can't early play. And then you get hit to 2. You drop this board. And because like you still have the buffer from where you hit them to 1 first. Right? So you get hit to 2, probably like low 2s, like 2/1 at most, 2/2. Before you drop this. And you get the stock soul. You set up a board. And you search out with this your only other card that we play in multiple counts at 2, your anti-change counter. Search out an anti-change counter behind 11/5 level 2 walls. Your opponent is forced to crash that next turn. Even double early plays. I mean, you can counter one of these to 14k, anti-change the other lane, save 2 of these. You get a lot of value. Very, very potent level 2. Very potent. Often after this goes off, you get an extra turn at 2. And then, so look. You got 3 stock at the beginning of the turn. You play down 3 of these. Boom. You play down the stock, so you're now at 7 stock at the end of the turn. You get an extra turn at 2, you're 10 stock. That's implying nothing else happened. You only had 3 stock at the beginning of the turn. Very powerful. Okay, though. What else do we play? We got the anti-change counters. We play 2 of them. Why do we play 2? Because you need to find it off of this. If you don't have an anti-change counter, this board is a lot more susceptible to garbage. It's very important to have the anti-change counter to be able to protect yourself from other decks. Boom. Iori. 2k to level 3s in front. Pay 1, ditch a climax, salvage a climax. That's very important because we do play a 3-3-2 split on climaxes. This is one of the cards that help enable that. I don't think it's the preferred way of enabling it because you still have to have the climax in hand for this. I see this more of a way to help your level 3 get extra power for on reverses if you decide to go that route. Alpaca. Probably one of the other best cards in the set. If you, for some reason, okay, 1, it's Alpaca, so it's always live. You just tap it, send a music character from waiting room to stock. Always a good card because 3 stock with this, you still end with 7, but you technically have 8 at the beginning of your next turn, right? And then if you have the turn of them dirtling, you basically go to, 12 stock? So you get like a lot of value off of this if you can manage to find it. We only play 1 though, so I think that getting this with this is a lot of cards to try to find by 2. But it can happen. But the reason this is also so good is Brainstorm. Pay 1, discard 2 for every music character you mill on that Brainstorm. you get to summon level 0. So if for some reason you hit your opponent too early, you get rid of this, use this. If you want to set up reverses, you can use this to play over this with the full board of stuff at the cost of only 2 hand instead of 3. If you just need to mill, it's like a decent mill. It's a ditch out if you really need to. It's just all in all, like, this is a super solid card. If like you hit your opponent 2 first, like I said, you don't play down the Makoto at all, you can use this. You can just spam the Brainstorm, summon out like these, get stock with these, mill. Lot of different lines of play from that. But now, the most important card to search with this. The most important card probably in the deck that enables everything. And I'll go over these numbers of why this is so good. This is a level bomb, but it also has pay 2 search a climax. Search. You don't have to discard, you just pay 2. Stock is the one thing you can afford in this set. Like stock is not really an issue for the deck, so I'm going to put that aside and go over the numbers later of why this is so good. And also it like replaces itself in hand, which is important because like hand is also like a limiting factor for your top end more than stock is. So now I've been talking about top end, I've been talking about stock, I've been talking about hand. So what is the top end? Almost regardless of what you do with the top end, you're going to want this 3/7 event. 3/7, if you have a red, you can only play if you have a red card on board. Discard 3 cards, burn 2 3 times. This costs 4 hand, 7 stock, but you get 3 attacks off of it. On top of whatever else you do for the turn. Very potent card, you only play 2 of it. Why? I cannot find room for any more copies. And I feel that 2 is enough as long as you know you play 2. What does that mean? It means if you open this first turn before mulligan, you hold this the entire game because you're just so much less likely to find it for the rest of the game. What else does that mean? It means for how the game progresses because you're also holding these and you're holding this and you're trying to get to level 2. It means that sometimes at level 1, your hand's like this. You can't play anything. You can't clock anything. Sometimes you attack twice at level 1, but that's how it be. Because the reward is worth it. It's worth it. You just gotta stay the course. So 3/7 event. Very, very powerful. Very potent. Deals a lot of damage. Now then, what goes with it? First, probably the best card to go that couples with it at least. Because like I said, we hit like 13 stock, right? I don't remember this girl's name. But she has on play, draw a card, give a card on your opponent's board, can't use backups or events. That's good, because you have a top and that requires reverses if you decide to go that route. So it helps enable that. It also draws a card, so it replaces itself in hand. If you have like double this, so this is 4, these are 0. So what it was like this is like a 6-card hand, right? But these all replace themselves. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is a 14 stock combo, 7-card hand, but the other 3 cards don't matter. It's actually not too bad. And then the climax combo is if you have itself in level. So this is the first thing you level. It's also kind of why we go into blue, other than the fact that blue stock charges, and helps us get to that 14 stock. When you play this climax, shuffle 3 cards back into your opponent's deck for each copy in the front row. Sometimes you don't even need this, because shuffling 3 back in per copy can just end games. I think the most eye-opening experience I've personally had with this combo and how powerful it is, played against a Japanese man, just playing Cyclono. He was horribly compressed. I think he was like 2-2 to 2-3, and I was like 3-5. I had to kill him that turn. I had the option to do this. I had the option to do this. I had the option to do pretty much anything I wanted. But I kept thinking about it. Like, this man left me a 1-card deck. If I slam down triple this is 10 damage. After refresh, 11. I need to stick 14 damage that turn, so I only had to find like 3 extra damage. Um, and he had open lanes too, so I actually didn't have to find any extra damage. I actually had to, because he had 2 open lanes. I had to actually side attack one of his, because he had a level 1. I had to side attack to get exact lethal. But the reason I got that lethal is because he left himself with a 1-card deck. Because he was like low 2s. And sometimes you can just like rob a game because they decide to leave themselves a 1-card deck, right? Or sometimes they're in like a bad deck state. They just can't fully, force the refresh. And then this like punishes super hard. Sometimes you use this to set up a grave for this. If they deny everything. I think that's like the weakest play you can have. Because that means you're probably not having the best time with the game. But yeah, super good card. Now then, play 4 of this. On play heal. Experience 6 gains 1500 power. So it's a 10-5. And on reverse with the standby that we play 2 of. Burn. On reverse, pay 3, ditch 1. Burn 1 3 times. Very potent finisher, right? And then this is the card you standby out, which is the 3/2. Global 1500. On play, salvage a card. And then also, if you trigger a climax, give a card a soul. Very good soul modulation in the top end. Though it is very RNG dependent, you have to trigger climax in order to get that. But now, into the important stuff. The numbers, right? This card, 3 stock. This card, 7. You're 10 stock. This card and this card, 14 stock. That's actually doable for this deck. 14 stock. And this is like the most stock you would need at level 3. This gets you the standby that you need. It gets you a Coda Ha for the reverse. It does this to turn off backups or events. And it does this. This is only 7 hand. Why? This is 4 cards out of hand. This replaces itself. So this is like one of the 4. So this is, you need 3 more. This replaces itself and finds the standby. So this finds this. So this is only 1 card. And then this needs 1 additional card as well. So it's like you need 2 cards for this. This 1 card itself. That's 3. 4. So 7. But this counts as 0. This is like an extra card by itself. So 14 mana. Actually, if you have an alpaca out, you only need 13 stock at the beginning of the turn to get to the 14. Do this. So as long as your opponent leaves you reverse, that is 9 attacks. Your opponent cannot use backups or events to anti-damage you. They pretty much cannot interact with that top end. All of the burns at the beginning happen in the main phase, right? Before going to battle, because they happen from this. And then you get 3 additional burns from this. Very, very potent top end. If your opponent leaves you a bunch of reverses, maybe you don't even bother with this. Maybe you just go into this. Usually your hand's not set up for that. Because usually going into level 3, your hand's going to be like this. Because this card replaces itself. And this card is the only top end you have that's useful in multiples. Your hand at the end of the game is probably going to look something like this and 2 random cards that you don't care about. Maybe an anti-change counter that you're threatening earlier. Maybe just garbage. I mean, you can't fix like a 7-card hand usually. You can only fix so much. So this is usually what your top end hand is going to be looking like. Or it's usually what you're trying to make it look like. Because this is like plays across the board. Even if this is your only hand at 2. After a clock draw, this is a 7-card hand and enables this entire combo, right? So, very, very good, efficient deck. Very powerful deck. Trying to think of any like horribly fringe plays that I need to go over. Other than I think this deck you'll have to try it a bit because it is a little tricky. Does take some time with it. It does sometimes brick. Sometimes has some bad games. I mean, that's every deck though. Just kind of like a downside to not having like Azusa's and Rizes, right? Like sometimes your deck will hit like semi-bad deck states. So I think the only other thing I guess is, did I go over this? I don't know if I went over the searches with this. Makoto, when you do your Makoto turn and you get your 3 searches, that 2/1 that searches the climax, 100% of the time this is your first search almost. Unless the game is like going to do something extremely wonky. This is almost always your first search. Your second search is almost always this. Why? Because you need to protect the board. Your third search is Finisher of Choice or Alpaca. Probably Alpaca, actually. So these are probably your 3 searches in this order. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3. Depending, if you have 2 of these in deck, you can afford to wait until the 3rd search for this. If you only have 1, this is more important than this. But this is the most important card for enabling the top end. But yeah, that's the deck. Definitely try it out. It's pretty cheap. It's like $70, I think, roughly. There's like mostly commons in this deck. Million Live in general is a cheap set. And if you guys like the deck, let me know. If maybe I can share some more spicy lists that I found and have decided are actually pretty good. But until next time, this is Serial Tenant with Burn 1, signing out.